Hello everybody, this is Joseph Propati, and this is my continuing video series on my new game 9-card Ultima. So in this video what I'm going to cover is all the different types of movement and monster combat, which is land monster combat. Another video I'll talk about going in the dungeons, movement, and then dungeon monster combat. So let's get started. So I've already shown you another video, the setup, and I'm going to use this setup just to cover character movement, when you buy a horse, horse movement, and then when you purchase a ship, ship movement. So in the game normally you'd start out here in the castle, and movement is a 1-for-1. It's one space, one turn. So I think monsters up to 4th level, or when you have higher level monsters, they can move 2 spaces. So in the beginning, you'll have monsters that is a 1-for-1. You move, they move. And it's a move when you're in combat, move, attack, and then they move and attack. So you have this single space movement per turn. You can only move horizontal and vertical, so no diagonal. Now monsters can move horizontal, vertical, and diagonal. So they can get you in some tricky spots. You also have weapons that can have ranges of 2 and 3 spaces. Same with the monsters. They have monsters that have range attacks. So when I go into the monster combat, I'll explain kind of their AI and how they would move. You can have some of the lower monsters kind of stupid and they'll move certain ways. And then I'll talk about terrain advantages from plains and forests. Plus, when you're in a town or a castle, that is a safe zone. So if you're being chased by a monster and you're low on health, just make your way to a town or a castle. Once you get in there, the monster will be gone the next time you come out. So that is your safe zone. Now, simple movement, when you're in your character token stage, it's a 1. Like I said, 1 space, 1 turn. So 1, you're making your movement. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's that kind of simple space movement. But one thing to remember is you have the possibility of random monster encounters. Now, the way that occurs is for every 5 movement, you can have a possible random monster encounter. Now, there's a couple ways you can do that. One, just keep track in your head. You know, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Roll for a random monster encounter. Or you can do this and go first move, second move, third move, fourth move. And then when you get that 5th one, you know that you'll roll for, take the blue, roll for a monster encounter. Now, this method right here is good because you can have the possibility of being attacked by a second monster. And the way that can happen is, let's say you move your 5, right? And you're right here. And you get a monster encounter. So you pull one of the monsters off. Now monsters always spawn on the red square or red space that your token is on, whatever card. So it's not going to come out of here or here. You're on this land card, so it'll come off of this spawn space. Now, your counter is still ticking. So that time of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say, you know, you move, monster moves, you move, monster moves, you move, monster can move diagonally. Now you're in combat. Okay? Now it's a... and combat doesn't initiate where now that the monster gone in, it gets to attack you. Now that you're side by side, now it is your choice. You either move or attack, and then the monster will get to move or attack. So, and in this stage too, there is a possibility where if you're dealing with a very powerful monster, you can do what's called a runaway. And what that does is you can use 3 spaces to get away, but that monster will get a free attack. But at least it lets you go 1, 2, 3, and then give you a chance to maybe get to a town or somewhere safe, because, like I said, towns and castles are your safe space. One thing you want to remember too is when you're moving, right? So you're on this 3rd space. If you're in combat, right, you do your first round of combat, you got to keep track of that. You get your second round of combat, Now you got to roll to see if another monster spawns. If you did get a spawn, now you take this red one, right? And that spawned there. That's why it's kind of critical to get this thing killed as fast as you can, because now when you're engaged with this monster, this guy's going to start moving over. Now, this doesn't matter anymore of keeping track of monsters, because you can only have 2 monsters attack you at one time. That's all there is. So if you're in this engagement and you're now dealing with 2, when this one passes away or you destroy that monster, now we've got that time counter going again. You'd put this on here, and now as you're engaging this guy, you're going to keep track, right? And then you might get this guy back in. So always keep track of every 5 turns, it's a possibility of a random monster encounter. So that's one of the things when you're moving around, either keep track of it in your head, and then once you're fighting a monster, then it's really nice to use this process, because as you'll start going quickly through attacks, and you'll realize, oh, where was I? Was I 3 or 4? Oh, I can't remember. And then you're going to get so bad where you're just going to be like, I'll just roll for a random counter. You don't want to do that. So when you're at character token, it's 1 space, 1 turn, right? Horizontal, vertical. Monsters can do horizontal, vertical, and diagonal. So just remember that. Now, when you buy a horse, right, which is your yellow one, you won't use this guy anymore. You'll be using this to track your movement. Now, as a horse, you can have 1 horse, you start doing 2 per turn. So if you're now, let's say you want to get down to this town, right? But you still got to deal with monsters. It'd be 1, 2, 3. So you got 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 1, 2. Still can't move diagonally, right? But now we have our random monster encounter. And then if you got 1, right? And if it's a lower level monster, you've got 2 to 1. So you're going to be okay. You'll be able to get away, because you can go 1, 2, right? Still got to keep track of possible second monster. Then 1, 2, and 1, 2. Now, once you're in here, sorry, it would have been a red guy, but now you're in your safe zone. You can forget about counting for the monsters. Everything's good, because once you leave the town, you're okay. No more monsters. So when you have a horse, it's 2 spaces to 1. You can't do a runaway, because you're not running away. You're on a horse. So if you're dealing with a monster and you have a horse, it's still going to be a 2 to 2 if you have those higher level monsters. So remember that. You can't run away. Run away is when you're only on your character token and you're land walking as you. So yellow one, that's your horse. Now let's talk about a ship. Oh, and first with a horse can go on a ship, right? So you can transport a horse on your ship. Movement is just like with you. You can move on forests and plains. That's it. You can't move through mountains. You can't walk on water. So anytime you want to start moving on water, you got to get your ship. So horse can go on a ship. Ship is purchased. It's only for water travel. Now, the way a ship works is, let's say I bought my ship, and that's where it's going to come out. It'll be right next to the coastline of the town that you purchase it from. So I have my ship, right? And ship is the same way. Ship is a 1 per 1, but it's only on ocean spaces or sea spaces. So, you move 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's different. It's not 5. When you're on a ship, it's 4 for a random monster encounter. And random monster encounters for ships are only sea monsters. So on your reference sheets, you're only dealing with this area right here, random sea monsters. So every 4 move with a ship, you roll for a sea monster. Now, you'll go, hey, well, how can I get anywhere? This only has a certain path for ships. Well, that's where these letters come in. So if you'll see on all these cards, you'll notice there's A, B, and C. And the way that works is, when I get to this C, if I have any other land cards on here that have another C, I can now pretend, it's like I'm going through the ocean or out into the sea, and then I can get over here and go to that coastline and land back on this sea. Same thing. I can go from here and go right back to this sea. Or if I'm in this near the castle, I can go to A and then go here, and then I start my movement again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I can disembark and either be my horse or my character. Now your ship's going to stay where it's at. You can't bring your ship on land. Your ship will always be somewhere on a coastline or somewhere left either at a letter. And you can purchase more than one ship. It's just the horse you can only have one of. For now. I may change that in the rules. But ships you can buy as many as you want, and you can leave them anywhere around in the coastlines. You can carry your horse, but you disembark, right, and you move around, and let's say you move up into here, your ship still stays here. Now, let's say you move down here, right, and remember the third land card is when you decide to reset and randomize or get rid of these cards and move this up and then draw new cards. The problem with that is your ship is here. So what happens is you have to mark a 5, right? Which tells you 5 and on A, and you could put 5A and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and just put 5A and then 4, just so you know where it's on in the land, or excuse me, on the ocean. You know, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and put 5. So, and you can mark that where your ship is, right? So, right on here, you just put 5A and then 5 for where that sea space is. Because what's going to happen is these get taken up, you move up here, you draw 2 new land cards, and until you get 5 again, your ship is docked somewhere. So it's like you were traveling across the land somewhere and you left your ship anchored off on the coast. You're going to have to make your way back down to this sea card where your ship is. And so that's one of the things it's important to remember. So you might, if you're getting a lot of gold, buy extra ships and anchor them around the coastlines, different spaces. But remember, the letter is what allows you to travel from letter to letter. And if you decide to leave it on a card and that card gets removed, just make sure you mark it on here. So later on, let's say you move down here, right? We bring this up here and we draw 2 cards. All right, and now we've got 5 again. We look on our thing, we go, it was A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's your ship. Now you can make your way back down and board your ship, and you're ready to go. Go here to A, you can come up to here. Now you can get to that dungeon. So ships only on the ocean, use the letters to travel outside. Now one of the things that happens when you're on the ocean, let's say you go from an A to an A and you're traveling out in the ocean, if you're at a specific level, I think it's 7, you can search for the whirlpool. And the whirlpool has the Kraken in it. And once you defeat the Kraken, you can get one of the special items. It's a choice between 2 of the items, but you can only get one of them. And that is a random roll of, I think it's 8, 9, and 10 to come upon the whirlpool. But you can only have that one chance. So if I'm here and I move into here, I would do that random roll. I would see if I got it, right? Oh, got a 10. So on that one, I was able to find the whirlpool. I can try and defeat the Kraken. If I don't, right, I make it back out. I can't right again search for that. I have to go to another place, right? Another ocean section. So maybe from A, get to the castle and go to B. But it's basically one body of water to search for the whirlpool. So something to remember. That's how you get to that whirlpool. It's not when you're just traveling around in here. You got to go from, ocean or landmass to landmass. So, but that's your movement with ship. Again, one space, one turn. Now, one of the things to remember is if you're on your ship, and you're being attacked, and you can use this as the monster. It's only one sea monster. Now, if you go, okay, you're getting followed, right, and you disembark, that monster can, if you're on the coastline, remember, diagonally, it could still attack you, and if it has ranged weapon or ranged attack, it can still attack you, right? The only way you're going to get rid of that thing is go to another card, have the cards reshuffled, or go into a town to have that monster move, because if it will stay there, and you go back in your ship, and you're going to have combat again. Now, you can also attack that monster from the shoreline, and you can attack it when you're in your ship, but it's just based on your stats and your weapons, not the ship. You don't have cannons or anything that you're dealing with. Again, possibly we'll add that later, but right now it's just you and what weapons you have and what your armor is and how you will deal with that sea monster. And whether it's ranged. And if you have range, same thing. If you have a ranged weapon and you're over here, that monster will continue to make its way to you, but if you get out, you can still attack it with range, and if it doesn't have range, then you're going to be able to kill it and not take any damage. So again, it's a decision of where you want to be when you're attacking, but that monster, sea monster, is never going to go away until you either move the card, get out of there, have the cards redone, or go into a town or castle. So again, something else to remember. If you go into a dungeon, that also will not eliminate it, because when you go into a dungeon, you're going to write down the cards in the sequence that they're at, and then when you go back out of the dungeon, you're going to put these back out. You're going to write somewhere on the card that there was a monster here, and that monster will come back. So towns and castles are the only thing that make monsters go away, or if you reshuffle to draw new cards, that'll make it go away. But starting here, like if that monster was right here following you, and you went into this dungeon, when you come back out, that guy's going to be right there waiting for you. So definitely something you want to worry about. If that becomes an imbalance, I might take it out of the game, but right now it's just something that you'll mark down, and you'll basically just say, you know, somewhere on the card, monster was at 4A, or 4A and then 2. One of those things. So that's movement for your character, for your ship, and for your horse. Now you have combat. So let's talk a little bit about combat. So we have we'll do it this way. We have a character that we're walking around. This is let's say it's our fighter. Fighter has a mace and a rope. And we've done our 5th movement, right? And we roll. And we're 1st level. So we would go to random land attacks, and we'd look at our reference sheet. And we have 2 at level 1. You're always going to be, the random number will be based on what your level is. So you've got a level 1 character, level 2. This is 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and then 7 and up. Those are the charts you'll run on or roll on. So with the level, we would go, okay, I'm level 1. We are right here, so this is where it's going to spawn. We roll a 4. Look on here. Oh, we got a hood. And we look at the stats, and we go, hoods have 15 hit points, right? So we can take either one of these, right? And we'll say, okay, we'll take the red. Spawns right here, and it has 15 hit points. Then we look, and we got, what's the damage it does? Hoods do D6 plus 3. Now, one of the things you have to remember is what armor you have, depending on how strong your armor is, it takes dice away from the monster's attack. So when you get into higher level monsters, they'll do 4d6, 5d6, 6d6. Well, leather armor gives you a protection of removing 1d6. And the way that works is, if I had leather armor and the monster uses 3d6 to attack for damage, well, I would remove one of those, and now I only roll 2d6. Because basically the armor is removing the damage or protecting you from that 1d6 damage. Same with if I had chainmail. Chainmail does 2d6 So if I have a monster that does 3d6, now that monster is only able to do 1d6 of damage. And if you had a monster that was doing 3d6 and you had plate armor, which is pretty expensive, it wouldn't even be able to hit you. It's basically your armor is so strong that it's just scratching the armor. It's not even doing anything. So definitely want to remember what your armor is, what the dice amount are for the monster's attack, and remove those dice before you roll damage. So very important. So in this case, all I have is a robe, which doesn't do any protection. And the damage is a d6, right? And I do 2d6 for mace. So I could say I'll do the green. That will be my damage. And this will be the hood's damage. And then we go into movement, right? Now, again, force gives you an advantage of it causes the person attacking you to get a minus on their to hit. Same with you. If you're attacking the monster and they're in the forest, you're going to get a minus also. So if we move, let's say I move, monster moves, I move, and the monster moves. Now we are side by side. Now the hood doesn't have a ranged attack, so, and I don't have a ranged attack. So once we're side by side, combat will start. Now I have a choice. I can attack or I can move. Same with the monster. Monster's either going to attack or move. Now I'm like, okay, 15 damage. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try and do a hit. So the way to hits work is we use the combat to hit chart. And it deals with 2d10. I'm going to roll one for me and one for the monster. All right. Now, to hits are, for me, 1 and 2 is a miss. That's if we're not in the trees. Now, both of us are in the trees, so we're going to get a -1. So now it's a 3. 1 to 3 is a miss. And then we have 4 and 5, 6 for this one is half damage. 7, 8, and 9 is full damage. And if I roll a straight 10, I'll get double damage. And for this monster, same thing. 1, 2, 3 is a miss. 4, 5, 6 is half damage. 7, 8, 9, and 10 is full damage. And this monster can't even get a critical hit. So I will be the white and the monster will be the black. So we'll roll. I roll a 9. So the to hit, it's an 8 and a 4. So half damage for the monster and full damage for me. So I get to roll my 2d6. Oh, great hit. All right, so 12 damage, which I will mark right off on here. It's left with 3 damage, or 3 health. And then they do 2, plus the hood does plus 3. So 5 points of damage. Whoop. We would just mark it on here. 45. And that's our first round. Now remember, I have to keep track of the monsters. Now let's pretend like 1, 2 went 1, 2. So we've already done 2. I just had attack. That's the third one. Want to keep track of that because I could get another monster that will now spawn here. And that's going to be really tough. So I'm going to continue to engage because I only need 3 more hits. 3 more damage. So we'll roll again. I got a 7. He got a 1. Not even a hit because that's a 0. And then mine's a 6. That's full damage. So I don't even have to worry about him. And I do 10 points damage. This monster is dead. Oh, I want to slide one. So now we take this off. Right? And then on the, that was this one. Now if I move, let's see, it will spawn here. It's okay. We'll roll to see if there's another monster. Could either be a hood again or thief or a miss. Good. 6 is a miss. A 1 or a 6 on level 1 is no attack. So we would start all over again. I could start moving. Boom, boom, boom. Let's say we move here. And let's say we've done our 5 and I'm right here. And we roll and I get another attack. But this time it's a thief. All right, so we look on the thief chart. A thief is 10 hit points. So we put a 10 here. And then what's the damage? D6. So, but now a thief has a special ability. If a thief rolls an 8, 9, or 10 on a to hit, now that doesn't matter. That's a non-modified roll. So even if I'm in the forest or he's in the forest and they get a -1, it's before the adjustment. So 8, 9, or 10, this thief will steal gold from me. So it's something that's kind of crazy you got to worry about. So spawned a monster, right? We're going to start this out. I'm going to go after him because I'm going to, well, let's see. Let's see if we can get him to chase us. So there's 1, 2. Now we're side by side, right? We'll go, okay. Let's go into combat. So I go first. I'm going to attack first. We're on 2. Let's do our hits. Because I'm not going to move away, so we'll go into combat. I roll a 4, rolls a 5. Now we are both in open, so no negatives. That was 5. So my 4 unmodified is half damage. His 5 is half damage. So again, I have 2d6. And damage is halved and then rolled up. So if I have a 3, it's 1.5. It's really 2. So I do 2 damage. He's got 8 left. And then he does a d6, which, of course, does 6. That would be 39. But we didn't have a high enough roll for the tit to get a steal. And then we've got another one, so we're going to roll again. We got a 2, he got a 5, so he's still half damage. I have a miss, so we'll look see what he gets. 1 damage. So that's 38. Let's try again. He's a miss, and I'm a miss. And one more time. Ooh, I got a 10, he got a 7. So, my 10's critical, so that's going to be a double damage. His 7 is just a full. So let's see, I can do double whatever I roll. A 6 and 2. So that's killer right there. So 8, 16 points of damage. That kills him. Alright. And then we would roll just to see. But he also gets his damage on me, which is half. Or he rolled a 7. That's, full damage. He rolls a 3. Because he gets that attack in before he dies. And then we'd roll again to see if there was another monster attack. Nope, 0. Now, I'm on this card, so it would spawn here. Okay? But no monster. We continue on our way, like as if I'm going to the signpost. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Roll for a monster attack. That's a miss. Get into here, and then I would go through and say, hey, all right, I got my gem. I mark off, I'm at the signpost, the blue signpost. And then that's your combat. That's combat with a simple character. Now, you also have ranged attacks. So if I have a situation where I have me in the forest and him in the plains, he's going to get a -1. Same with him. If he's in the forest and I'm in the plains, I will get a -1 to the attack. If we're both in there, it's both negatives. Remember again, there's no movement over mountains, just plains and forests. Now, if I have a ranged attack, the way the forest works for forest will block ranged attacks. So even if I have a ranged attack and I can go up to 3. Now I can hit him because I have a plane in the middle of me. Right? But if, let's say we're here, I can't attack him. And he can't attack me if he has ranged. in the forest, you have to be side by side. It nullifies all ranged attacks. Now I could be here, right? And even though I can't move diagonally, I can sure shoot my bow or a blaster or something and just count if it's 3 spaces, you just count it 1, 2, 3. There's, you know, it's not a, you could do it as a diagonal. You could go 1, 2, 3 like that. If it's here, then it's 1, 2, 3. You just kind of have to work your way into that range, 1, 2, and 3. Just remember, just not past 3. And even if I'm in the woods, I can still shoot a range out of the woods if I'm on the edge of the wood. Right, so I could still go 1, 2, 3 and attack that monster. But right when he moved, if it was smart, when he moved here, I couldn't attack him. And if he was playing this game, he could try and nullify my long range. But again, that's only for, you know, high level monsters. Anything 1, 2, 3, 4, they're not going to know how to play that little tactical movement. And you are the one that's moving the monster. So really, if you want a more challenging or less challenging, it's up to you. If you want to play that every monster's smart, then you play every monster from level 1. So they take advantage of the woods. They take advantage of where they're at and how they can take advantage of blocked range. Or you just move them in the plains all the time. It's really up to you. It's kind of one of those things where you can add the challenge or nullify it. But you should play lower level monsters kind of dumb, where they're just going to do a beeline to you and they're not really going to think about the forests. They will take the quickest path to you. 6 level monsters, or the 5 or 6, those are definitely going to try and think about using their ranged weapons, using the mountains and the trees to an advantage to block your attacks. And if it was you on a horse, it's the same thing. It's the attacks are the same. It's still you. Your horse can't die. You can't lose your ship. It's not going to get blown up. It's just a same attack, but now you have a range where you can do 3. So if he's here, right, and you want to not necessarily run away, but you want to move away and not attack, you know, you have 1, 2. He will get an attack on you because you're disengaging from combat. So one of the things you want to do is you have to remember, if you're side by side and you decide to not attack but leave, you're disengaging from the monster will get a free attack. So be very mindful to remember that attack if you leave. And now, same thing. It's one of these where you have 2, but it's kind of hard to even get it away from a horse because he can move that diagonal space. So that's when you really want to try and use these mountains. But, you know, if it's a dumb monster, maybe it'll get stuck, right? If you're in this situation and he's trying to do a beeline, you play it like he's a dumb monster and he gets stuck instead of trying to do this movement around. So again, up to you. If you want to play a really dumb monster, just like in Ultima, you can trap them around mountains based on how you tactically move your character. So you as a character have 1 move. You and a horse have 2 spaces. So, and I think I haven't really said, I just said run away is, you know, you get 3 spaces. I think if you're on a horse, I think it should apply. It's the same thing. You get, you're on your horse and you just want to take off, then you can do the same thing, 3 spaces, and it allows you to get away. Now, I know a horse moves 2 per turn, but it's just going to be an all-around 3 spaces when you want to do a runaway. So if you were here and you were engaged and you went 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3 to get away, or even 1, 2, and 3, at least a single movement monster couldn't get you. He will get that attack, but he's not going to be able to catch up to you. And then right after that, you go back to your normal move. It's just that burst of energy to get away from the monster, run away, and then you're back to your normal movement. With a horse, it's 2 spaces per turn. Now I think that should cover everything you need to know combat-wise. I don't think there's anything else. You just need to, again, remember spawning points. You're going to have two monsters attack at the same time. Be mindful of your armor, so you know to take that away from the dice that are doing damage. Also, something to remember, if, let's say you have these monsters that do plus damages. They'll do like 2d6 plus 3. Well, the way those are set up is because if you do have armor that nullifies their regular attack, so let's say you had chain armor and takes 2d6. It's still, this bear still does plus 3. So even though you nullify the dice roll damage, he will still get 3 points of damage attacked against you. So every turn, you're nullifying the damage except for the plus 3. Same with some of these other ones where you have 46 plus 3, you'd have 2d6 removed, or if you had plate, you have 3d6. Then you'd still have 1d6 plus 3 on those. So something to remember. Don't forget that plus damage that the monster has. They have those little plus bonuses. I think that's about it. Next video, I will cover dungeon movement and dungeon combat.